the white man has the idea of the white God, let him worship his God as he desires. We have found a new ideal. Because whilst our God has no color, and yet it is human to see everything through one's own spectacles, and since the white people have seen their God through their white spectacles, we have only now started to see our God through our own. So we believe in the God of Ethiopia, the everlasting God, God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Ghost, the one God of our lives. That is the God in whom we believe, for we shall worship him through the spectacles of Ethiopia. For 250 years we have struggled under the burden and weight of slavery. We were maimed, we were brutalized, we were ravaged in every way. We are men, we have hopes, we have passions, we have feelings, we have desires just like any other race. The cries raised all over the world, Canada for the Canadians, of America for the Americans, of England for the English, of France for the French, of Germany for the Germans. Do you think it unreasonable to see the black world to raise the cry of Africa for the Africans? The Negro is a man, we represent the new Negro. The fight is not yet against the world, we do not want to fight against the world because that would be a peculiar and desperate position. We do not want him there. It is because of this that we will ask for a compromise. So the Belgians have control of the Belgian Congo, which they cannot use. They have not the resources and intelligence. The French have more territory than they can develop. They certain parts of Africa which they cannot live at all. So it is for you to come together and give us the United States of Africa. Yes, sir. We are not going to be a race without a country. God never intended it, and we are not going to build God's confidence in us as men. We are men, human beings, capable of the same acts as any other race. Possessing on the great circumstances the same intelligence as any other race. Well, Africa's been sleeping, not dead, only sleeping. Today, Africa's walking around not only on her feet, but on her brains. You can enslave us for 300 years the bodies of men. You can shackle the hands of men. You can shackle the feet of men. You can imprison the bodies of men. But you cannot shackle or imprison the minds of men.
Teaching the children about him. Show the little children about him. Marcus Garvey, fighting to set the captive free. Yeah, teaching the little children about him. I can hear them shouting, Marcus Garvey, fighting to set the captive free. AI, Marcus, Messiah, blackness to the highest power. Trot through the valleys and him walk through the burning fire. Give him the praise and honor. Red, black and green, banner prophet with a thunder shout. Casting down pressers under. Mentally black star liner. Must know thyself, don't slumber up the mighty people and block out from the grips of Caesar. In order to triumph, we need togetherness, mental agriculture, repatriation, not a Marcus code. Yeah, black liberation, justice and fold, united Nubians, that are the ideation. Keep on striving until we forward home. Teach the little children, Marcus Garvey, fighting to set the captive free. Oh, children about him. Teach them about Marcus. Children about him. Marcus Garvey.
Yes, greetings again, family, and thank you for tuning in to another installment of Unity and Solidarity. Yes, today it is still Sunday, November 19, 2023. The time is now just after 4 o'clock, close to 4:30, and for the next few moments, I just wanted to commemorate International Men's Day by paying special tribute, to a number of men that has played a role, be it direct or indirect, or even from afar, in my personal development, in shaping my views, of course, my worldview, my approach to certain issues in society, and this is just my list, family, and it is just my humble way of giving flowers, and paying homage and respect, to the following persons who I owe really and truly a lot to. Um, so of course, we are on the YouTube channel at Unity and Solidarity TV, and you can also catch the link on our YouTube, on our Facebook page. Let me just make sure, because I don't want to give any incorrect or incomplete information. All right. Right. Apologies for that. That was a previous, and I hope ones and ones was able to listen to the recording. We had a great discussion this earlier today with Mr. Fabio Doralis regarding the deportation of Haitian nationals to the country. Of course, your feedback is always welcomed, right? So I am here now going to my Facebook page, right? And I just want to, I'm gonna copy. So those of you, you can always go to my Facebook page, Bakari Makeru, right, at Facebook. I am also proud to announce that we are also streaming from another Facebook page, um, which is namely the UNIA ACL St. Martin chapter Facebook page. As many of you all know, I am a firm believer in the teachings of Marcus Mosiah Garvey, and it is the intention and objective to reestablish a UNIA chapter on St. Martin. So pretty soon we'll be having a recruitment drive for interested persons to help us to form it so that we may continue the work of Papa Garvey right here on Swaliga. So I want to give let me not forget once again, Saturday, November 25th, 2023, Mindful Elevation is having two interactive and impactful discussions. The first one being Domestic Violence Awareness, Managing and Healing with special guest, Ms. Janelle Hunt. Ms. Janelle Hunt works in the field of cybersecurity for the federal government. She's also the owner of, quote, Made on What I Know, end quote, which provides coaching services to help women overcome the lingering effects of domestic violence. She's also the author of Made on What I Know, Find Your Serenity, Reclaim Your Life, and Pursue Your Goals After Domestic Violence. The conversation starts at 2 p.m. on Saturday and will be hosted by none other than Dr. Anders Ramonda Hansen. Then at 7 p.m., there'll be another installment entitled Eating Disorder in the Black Community with special guest Jessica Harris. So, of course, if you want to follow the discussion or maybe even drop a comment, ask some questions, you can also do so at Mindful Elevation Caribbean on their Facebook page. Now, as I said earlier, on this International Men's Day, I would like to take a few moments to pay homage and highlight several men in my life that has helped shape my character, life's mission, worldview in one way or the other. My life would have been very different had it not been for the continued guidance, support, protection, discipline, and of course for them being an additional father figure or big brother in my life. Now, disclaimer. Ones and ones are at complete liberty to disagree or even critique the selection. And that's okay. No one is perfect and we all have a story. Nonetheless, what I can say without any fear is that whatever achievements or positive impact I may have made is because of them. And on the other hand, my personal shortcomings, contradictions, inconsistencies, and flaws are mine alone and do not in any way reflect their perceived shortcomings. Time and space does not allow me to list all of the men that contributed to my personal development. Therefore, please forgive me if your name wasn't mentioned in this episode. So I'll just be, mentioning the various male figures, positive male figures. I might share some stories and explain why their impact why their presence made such an impact on my life, you know. So let me check to see if we have anybody. Okay, all right. Not no one is giving any comments as yet. So I first want to start off with one of my grandfathers, which is Mr. George, better known as Batlin Ziki Pantaflet. He really taught me the importance of self-discipline, staying healthy, and self-learning. My grandfather was a fervent reader and owned an impressive collection of encyclopedias. As a matter of fact, what I admired most was the fact that he taught himself how to read and write. I can still recall him spending many nights poring over newspapers and books on health and world events. Many 40 mornings, my grandfather would wake me up to go walking and hiking, or to go to Bel Beach, where he would teach me how to swim. What always left an impression on me is that my grandfather, it was almost a ritual. He would jog to the length of Bel Beach in this case, and after doing so, he would just go into the water and like literally re-emerge, what I would say, at a far distance from the shore. You know, I always admired that. And of course, when you're, you know, 5, 6, 7, or 8, everything looks far from where you're at, you know. Like many St. Martiners, he left for the island of Aruba at a young age. He gained employment at the Lago Oil Refinery, and while there, he developed his exceptional skills as a boxer, trainer, and entrepreneur while raising quite a large family. You know, I would also say that I was inspired to learn the game of table tennis after watching my grandfather winning a table tennis tournament. Now, I maybe persons who are watching, or my family or whomever, because I, for some strange reason, I can't remember the exact date, but I know it was before the passing of my dearly departed grandmother. She transitioned in 1993. So I would imagine that this tournament took place between something in the late 80s and early 90s, before 1992 for sure, right? So that really made an impression of me. I really wish I had did a slide presentation, because you would have seen, yeah, all of us, right? All of us surrounding my grandfather after he won the huge table tennis trophy. My other grandfather, Mr. Abraham Hammy Arundel, resident of Sucker Garden. I was very young when you know, I would have seen my grandfather, and by that time he was in already advanced age. But from what I remember, he was very humble, didn't say much, but I could see a sense of pride in him. You know, he lived very modestly, preferring his small traditional dwelling even after, you know, a more sturdier, stronger dwelling was constructed. You see, I can still remember him in his with his sandals and his, you know, neat clothing. And whenever he would eat, he would retire into his cherished dwelling, you know, to have some alone time. And I was always proud to know that he had his own store, a small shop, right? And come time, because I think he raised maybe a few pigs or animals or so, and come time to share it, you know, he would always send pieces for his family and friends in Sucker Garden and surrounding neighborhoods, you know. And to me, what was also cute was that he also had a liking for cycling. So I guess that's where I possibly may have gotten that how you say, that likeness for that liking, sorry, for cycling to and from work. The other part is economic, of course. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. So the next male I want to highlight, of course, is my dad. Many of you know him as Apostle Edwin Arundel. I call him Daddy, right? So aside from his responsibilities to the church, I would say that my father is one of the most community-minded persons I know. There is literally never a time that he is not taxing his mind to identify ways to offer intangible and material support to persons or families in need. My father is also a lover and avid reader and enjoys good debates and discussion on politics, history, and religion. His hunger for learning is evident in his vast book collection and his pursuit for further education. I recall spending many afternoons and weekends, and evenings, of course, in his personal library, satisfying my curiosity on different topics from religion, history, leadership, and so forth and so on. My father always preached the gospel of hard work, self reliance, and being your own boss. And of course, making money work for you. His advice was never difficult to accept because from a very young age, he was basically his own boss. He managed a car rental, had a supermarket, and managed various rental properties. Next up, I have to highlight my. I have several uncles. I want to highlight two in one go because of certain similarities in my experience, of course. Yeah. So I want to highlight my uncles Robert and Raymond Pantoflet. Truth be told, my love and passion for the game of basketball is primarily because of my uncles Raymond and Robert Pantoflet. As a young man, I remember watching them compete on a basketball court in St. Peter's and the Great Bay Sports Auditorium. And I always enjoyed watching how they played with skill, style, and heart. When it comes to training, I had the best of both worlds. I would lift weights with my uncle Raymond sometimes because those guys used to go hard, right? And when it comes to skill development, so shooting, dribbling, endurance, that's with Uncle Robbie. In fact, I remember it was back in 1997, 1998. It had to be before 98 for sure because I traveled to Europe to further my studies in 1998. I was honored to be selected to play in an all-star basketball game. Yes, imagine that, right? If I'm not mistaken, my uncle and I, Robbie, um, he had me doing a lot of drills on the basketball court several times a week, sometimes very early in the morning, just to get ready for this particular game. My uncles taught me several important lessons, which I still hold very, I mean, they didn't say it, but in their actions, and when they modeled masculinity, when they modeled, their presence, they didn't have to say it. You could just see it, but they would always show me at least the importance of being physically and mentally strong, especially in the game of basketball, right? And you got to play through the pain and finish strong, right? They also taught me that if somebody who you're playing against, right, is playing physical, then you have all rights to play physical because if you can't take it, then you should not be playing this particular game. And that's something I always take with me, whether on the basketball court or off the basketball court. Okay. I also admired how they would volunteer their time and resources to clean and make basic repairs to the St. Peter's basketball court. It was always something very moving to watch other men, my uncles and other men in the community, take care of the playground. That really left a deep impression on me. And there is something I really, really want to point out, family, is the fact that I really have to say that I am extremely proud, right, of my uncle, Robert Pantoflet. For many of you who may or may not know, he struggled with an addiction in the past. Of course, I won't go into details, but perhaps one day I'll ask him to be a guest on Unity and Solidarity TV and hopefully share his experiences, which may serve as a source of inspiration to other persons out there who may have similar struggles. But to see what he is doing today and able to do and be such a positive force on the lives of so many, is truly, truly inspiring. And it truly, how you say, is testimony of the strength and resilience of the human spirit. So I really got to rise up my two uncles, Robert Pantiflet and Raymond Pantiflet, for their impact on my life, of course. Of course, I have many uncles. I have to bear with me. I'm going to take my time here. So my other uncle now is Rory Pantiflet. Now, love him or hate him. See, I have to hold my head a little bit. Love him or hate him. Uncle Rory is special. You really need special skill set. You really need a special skill set to deal with Uncle Rory sometimes. But I believe and I know in my heart of hearts that he means well. Okay. What I can say though is that growing up, to me he was like a drill sergeant. I swear, if he came and saw me resting or watching television, he would have automatically demanded that I go and whether it's wash dishes or clean the house or clean the yard, but just get busy, and he would always lecture me about not being lazy and the importance of working hard because nothing comes easy in life. I must admit, some 40 years later, I used to dread whenever he'd come to St. Martin because, um, he would always have me doing additional tasks and responsibilities. But when I look back at it, I do not regret it. I do not regret it whatsoever. I always believe that the discipline for my uncles always came from a good place, and the fact that I am able to do many things for myself, is by virtue of watching them. You understand? Whether it is taking care of the family, the home, or doing basic stuff around the house, is because of what I saw, growing up. And my uncle and I, we would sometimes go out, whether we have a drink or go for a meal by our favorite local restaurant, and we would just talk, and I always enjoyed the fact that he would have shared his life experiences with me, and many times giving me a lot of good advice, a lot of good. There's just something special about being able to learn as a young man, being able to learn from the experiences of someone older, because those who went before us, they already paid the price, in terms of trial and error, in terms of consequences. So they are best placed to provide guidance so that we who are coming after them, right, do not have to make the same mistake. And that's something that I really cherish, those moments with my uncle. Sometimes when I would have returned to the island during, especially the summer holidays, we would go because he used to drive bus, driving taxi now, but he used to drive bus. And we would sometimes from morning, we would just simply go on the road up and down and we just spend the whole time together. You understand? We would like literally just spend the whole time together, just talking and enjoying his company and such. As a matter of fact, not too long ago, he reminded me that I still owe him, a drink and a meal. We have to, start back that sort of fellowship, which we shall, which we shall. So I just wanted to share those thoughts about my uncle Rory and thing. Really, really appreciate him, so very much. I also, I have my uncle Rafi, yeah, Raphael Pantoflet. He lived all his life in Aruba. Came to St. Martin many, many times, of course. But one thing I always have liked about Uncle Rafi is his pride, He loved his family, loved to show off his family and thing. And I remember when I went to Aruba, this had to be this was before the hurricane. I think it was before Hurricane Lewis, right? So this had to be 93 or 94. Because we used to go to Aruba for basically the whole summer vacation. And my uncle would take me around and, bragging to everybody, this my nephew, and telling everybody how I can beat him in table tennis. But he always made me feel, good, made me feel special and thing, to be his nephew. You understand? And I always love that. You know, and even when I was expecting the birth of my first child, right? He came to Holland and we had a good talk, you know, and he was explaining to me the ins and outs of how to, you know, engage and how to relate when your partner is when, well, of course, when you and your partner is expecting, but what sort of changes one can expect and how to deal with it as a man, you know. And I was pretty young, right? I was pretty young when we had our conversation, but that's one conversation I will never ever forget, you know. And I always appreciate that. I also remember how he would, I mean, back in my meat eating days, of course, right? I always remember how he would send. I don't know the brand, okay? I really don't know the brand, but he would send like a box of hamburgers, okay? And I swear these were the best hamburgers ever. Okay, frozen, of course, but they were really, really good. Whenever he knew that someone was coming to St. Martin, he would always send me that, you know. And it's those little things that, you know, especially as a child, as a young man, it really, really means a lot. And I'm 41 today, and I can still remember these things, you know. So it was good, man. It was good, you know. I really appreciate those memories, you know. And even when he came to St. Martin, um, not the last time, because the last time we didn't get to do anything, you know, but the time before that, you know, we went, had lunch and everything. He really enjoyed it. So that really means a lot to me, you know. My other uncle, Uncle George Pantaflet, yes, MP George Pantaflet, you know. But you know, there's really a lot of things I can say about Uncle George. You know, from when I was a young man, he used to come and pick us up to go vacation Bible school. You know, to all of the great times when I used to go and visit them sometimes on a weekly basis to play with my cousins them and everything. And I would say that our relationship really got close when I lived in Holland, you know, and I was studying, and I developed an active interest in politics, in what's going on, you know, on the island and so forth. And he was always ready and available to discuss, share ideas, share information that really helped me to gain perspective, you know. And I really appreciate that. I could never ever say that, you know, Uncle George ever take me for granted or so, you know. Am I critical? Absolutely, you know, absolutely. And that's the how you say, that's the type of relationship that we have, you know. Um, but yeah, man. So I really learned a lot from Uncle George. You know, I was really able to see how how politics is done, um, very close up. You know, very close up as such. And I always appreciate that. And you know, when we sit down and talk, we sit down and talk. You know, always with pass. Sometimes you know, he would tease me and be like, Bapana, I ain't hearing from you, you know? But that's just a relationship we have. And, you know, politics aside, that's my uncle, you know, and I really appreciate him, love him, you know, and will always be grateful for the insight and guidance that he's offered me, you know. I have another uncle, Tony Pantaflet. He lived in Holland all his life, you know. But one of the things that stood out to me was there was an occasion, right, that the entire family was basically playing table tennis. And, you know, it was like for bragging rights. So uncles, aunts, I think my grandfather played, I'm not sure, you know. And here comes my uncle Tony, and he is playing table tennis with both hands. Okay, now understand me well. Not just playing, you know, but I mean like playing. I mean like he was just going crazy. All right. So the same skill set he has with his with one hand, he has it with the other hand. I mean, at that age, I didn't see nothing like that, you know. But it was just great to be, you know, amongst family, you know, enjoying each other's company, in a you know, a nice healthy activity like that. That was something I would never ever forget. And I was always how you say, interested in knowing, or even impressed by the fact that Uncle Tony was, I think it was martial arts of judo or karate, of one of those, but he likes that kind of thing. So yeah, man, that's my uncles them, and as I said again, I really appreciate the contributions of each and every one of them, because I've learned so much for them, whether in their speech or whether in their modeling of it, of their teachings. I definitely learned a lot. I have to shout out, Coach Franklin Rajuki. Um, I don't know if it's fair to call him my former table tennis coach, because he will always be my coach. If I start back playing table tennis, he gonna always be the coach. Even though he say he retire, even though he say that he want his children them to take over, right? Some way, somehow, we just always end up pulling him in. Now I've known coach literally all my life, you know. Um And what I can say is that, as I said earlier, my interest in table tennis happened, when I saw my grandfather win the tournament. Of course, I would have been home and my grandfather would have, trained me to the best of his ability. And then shortly after, I was introduced to Coach Franklin Rajuki, and the rest is history. Because of Coach Franklin Rajuki, I was able to harness my skills as a table tennis player, right? And he really really made a major impact on my life. And why do I say so? Because he was not only a coach was literally a father figure to many of us. And I am sure those of us who were under his tutelage would agree, right? Because with coach, you received discipline and you received rewards. It's very, very simple. You know, you do good in school, trust me, you are disciplined, you know. But when you do well in school, they have nothing you can ask for. We are talking about a man that literally committed. He committed to making sure, to the best of his ability, that you not only excelled in the area of sports, but you also excelled when it comes to your education. The two went hand in hand. There was no separation. Okay? There was absolutely no separation. There were times when we would have finished school at, let's say, 1 o'clock, and we would reach by coach by the auditorium. That time it was upstairs by the auditorium. And we would reach by coach, let's say 1:30, 2 o'clock, and we would be there sometimes until 5, 8 o'clock. You had a time when you could, you had a space, right, where you could do your homework. If you had to study, you study your whatever you had to do, but you had to get it done. And then afterwards, right, you would have been able to train. And it was really, really something, you know, because many of us had really need that type of structure. So I would remember, for instance, that by coach, when he starts to count, when you hear coach says 1, 2, 3, there's no discussion. You line up, you line up. And what I loved most about coach is that he demanded and expected excellence. You know, not that he was being unreasonable, but because of his profound belief that his children are the best, you know. And with that type of guidance and coaching, I promise you, the results thereof meant that St. Martin was on the map when it came to table tennis back in the 90s. I believe, and I still maintain, that if we did not suffer that hurricane in 1995, St. Martin would have been much further in the area of table tennis, you know. So, coach has really, really been a father figure to myself and to many, many others, persons my age in our community, because he always looked for ways to ensure that his children, right, were going to excel in school and in table tennis. It is because of coach we were able to travel to many islands in the Caribbean. Okay, many islands in the Caribbean, and participate, and at many times win. If not win, rank high. Okay, but coach had one philosophy: he going to win. He don't accept, we ain't accepting no sort of defeat. So that type of attitude I always took with me. That competitive spirit, that we ain't giving up until that bell ring. You understand? It's never over. And that's one thing, and that's another thing, that really, really helped me out, because as a young man, you need structure. As a young man, you need the wisdom and guidance of an older person who is able to see further than you, to help direct your course of action. Even up to this day, coach and I just reflect upon, the good old days when we used to practice and what all we used to do in the different programs and such, And to be honest, I am sometimes amazed and at a loss of words as to how much events coach can remember. You understand? He is truly a treasure trove, of valuable information and experience, And again, many of us wouldn't be around today if it wasn't for the intervention of Coach Franklin Rajuki. You understand? So I really have to pay homage to him whenever I do anything, whether he hear me on the radio or he reads my article or whatever. Coach always calls me. Always. He gives me his feedback, what he like, where I can improve, and how to do it better. You understand? So, coach, I really have to, highlight you and give you your flowers. And from the bottom of my heart, at least I gotta tell you thank you for all that you've done for me in my life personally. Um, the next ones I want to rise up, right? I want to rise up my uncle Patrick Humphrey. You know, I had brief conversations with Uncle Patrick, but I really want to rise him up, because I see that my uncle is a Kaisonian. So now realizing why I possibly like Calypso so much, But Uncle Patrick Humphrey, I just want to rise you up also, and thank you for producing, such thought-provoking music, and representing the mighty Humphrey name the way how you just do. The next person I want to rise up is Mr. Jose Lake Jr., right? And I consider Mr. Lake one of my mentors, right? I was always impressed with his ability to articulate and at times simplify, with just common sense, with regards to the political independence of St. Martin, and I really appreciate his patience with me. He would always, I can call Mr. Lake right now and say, I need to talk to you. I have something on my mind. I need your advice. And he would always make time for me one way or the other, and that's something I really, really appreciate. I always admired his position, whether popular or unpopular, but I admire the fact that he spoke his truth and he spoke it with conviction, right? And of course, he would always remind me that he longs for the day to see me run for political office, but that's another debate, you know. But after, especially after reading his works and his articles and such, I became convinced that this is one elder that I would definitely like to remain in contact with. Because of Mr. Lake, I develop a deeper appreciation for persons like Amilcar Cabral. Because many of you would know, Mr. Lake is really a big supporter of our late comrade Amilcar Cabral. You know, and I would love, how he would have written his essays. I'm talking about Mr. Lake now, how he would have written his essays in such a way that anybody could have easily understand it, you know. And what I admire most about Mr. Lake is his patience. Is his patience. He would make presentations. He would speak and give his analysis on our current colonial status, and with the hope that we as a nation finally wake up to the responsibility that we must take our own destiny in our own hands. And he has the patience of Job. I'll tell you that much. He has the patience of Job. But I think that patience is because of his profound belief that his people will be politically independent. It just takes a matter of time. And even if you have to repeat it several times, that change is going to come. you know and I think my appreciation and my admiration for Mr. Lake um heightened, so to say, after reading the classic work, Friendly Anger: The Rise of the Labor Movement on St. Martin. Maybe we ought to do a book study on this one of these days, as well as the Republic, I think, and of course the Independence Papers of St. Martin. I consider those the Gospels, when it comes to learning about our political salvation, amongst others, of course. So yeah, man, Mr. Lake really has a special place in my heart and thing, for his influence, for his example, for his position when it comes to the question of political independence and anti-imperialism. So, Mr. Jose Lake, I hope you get to hear this part. I hope someone shares it with you. But just to let you know that your student Bakari, really want to rise you up, right? To pay homage and to thank you for your work, your sacrifices, your ideas that you have shared with us. The next person I want to rise up is Mr. Neville Doc Lake. No, I always appreciated Doc. And I do want to send out strength and courage to Doc. You understand? Because Doc is a really interesting person. But what I loved about Doc was his ability to just speak his truth on different issues. I would always look forward to the open forums on PJD2, because I know that Doc would use that opportunity to bring several pertinent issues to the attention of the public and most likely to decision makers. I always appreciated and respected his consistency. Whether you agreed with his position or not, that's all right, but I do admire the fact that while up in age, he never missed an opportunity to speak out on what he believed was wrong, in our society, and to demand better. And I would always, the times that I would have visited him at his home, we would spend several hours, talking, and he would have explained to me about, events that happened in the past on St. Martin, you know, and to this day I regret. I mean, it's not too late, but at the time, I regret that I did not put more um, emphasis on documenting those conversations. You see, because he has a wealth of knowledge that younger persons, especially of my generation, could benefit from. So that's something I definitely definitely want to point out that, Doc really, really, really is a inspirational figure to me at least, because he was never afraid to speak out, versus many who would prefer to just grumble and behave as if everything is irie. So to Neville Doc Lake, I just want to wish you a special happy International Men's Day, and all of the very best, of course. Another person I want to rise up is Mr. Chip Dollison, or Mr. Kwabena Nyamenke. Yeah, Chip Dollison. I met I met Chip, right? I met Chip, wow, close to 20 years ago, right? At the home of some brethren of mine. And from the moment we met, we've always stayed in contact. Chip is one of those elders that you always learn something when you speak with him. Okay. And he always has some very good advice. And what I love, I just enjoy most is that when he's giving you advice, is based off of his life, things that he's done, things that he would have done differently and such. He would share that type of information with me at least, and he would always um, tell me of the importance of understanding language, history, and so forth, and bring it all together. You know, whenever we met up, we would always sit and talk for like literally hours. Whether it's about the books we are reading, about what the developments in Africa, or the region and so forth. But we always had, up to this day, even when I visit him, when I go off island and I visit him, we always have great conversations. And as I said, I've known Chip for at least 20 years. Okay. And Chip is still going strong. He is still reading, like, I think 10 books a week, involved in different activities, be it political, social, educational. And I admire that, that type of staying power. I really, really admire that. And it's something that I intend to emulate as I get older, because he has so much to offer, with all of his experiences, contacts, acquaintances. He has a lot to offer. So whenever, I need some additional information, I would always just call him, see what he's doing, and then we just reason for a while, And what I like about Chip also, he makes his Africanness real, So from the clothing, to the name. At one point, he even lived in Africa, and I can't remember which period, but he lived there, But yeah, I really admire Chip Dollison, a lot in everything, and I really give thanks for meeting him, because of him, I've been able to meet other great persons in the community, from Kimani Nehusi to Wilbert Romu to brother Eddie Beresford, to name a few, but some very powerful brothers. And of course, I can't forget the family in Marche Breda, that was like a hub for when it comes to discussing things related to African history and culture and so forth. So I really got to give thanks, to Chip Dollison, for the impact he make on my life. Another person I want to highlight is my brother IX. Met IX again, well over 20 years ago, on the basketball court in Holland. And I don't remember how the conversation came about, but we started talking about history and culture and so forth. And I remember asking him for a few books that I could read to broaden my knowledge on the subject matter, because at the time I was fairly young. I think I was early 20s, late teens, early 20s when we met, and he would have borrowed me, I think, 2 or 3 books, and I remember good. Um, at least two of the two titles were from J.A. Rogers, right? And it was 100 Amazing Facts About the Negro and World's Great Men of Color, if I'm not mistaken. And I would have like literally studied this book. All right, it was a nice little, it's still a nice little pamphlet. You can get through it, half a day, a couple of hours, but it was packed about, I would call it, great information about the history of African people from time immemorial to present. Whenever we would talk, we would always reason about different things, whether it is history, colonialism, religion, and I was always impressed with his critical analysis on different issues, and his how would I put it, um, his confidence, when it comes to his blackness, because he said it without any compromise, without any apology, and I really appreciated that because it really strengthened me as a young man coming up, especially in the Netherlands, that has a interesting relationship with Black people, especially people who they label as Antillianan, right, or persons from the Antilles. But it was good to be, in the presence of individuals, of that worldview, because it helped me to further understand and appreciate my Blackness. And it also inspired me to go and dig deeper to learn more about what was not shared with me during my formative years in school, right? So yeah, man, IX really opened up my mind a lot, when it comes to the study of African history as such. So I could never ever ever forget, you know, this brethren of mine. I call him like my older brother, really and truly. Even when the way how his family embraced me, how he embraced me and everything, looked out for me, I would never dare be ungrateful. So again, because of IX, I have a vast library, just dealing specifically with African history as such. So I really have to rise up IX, without a shadow of a doubt. The next person I have to rise up is, let me see, because I have a little list here. Is yeah, man, I have to rise up Mr. Leopold James. you know I really have to. I remember again in my younger years. I ain't old, I'm still a young man. But I would have remembered reading his articles and listening to his interviews, with regards to, the question of St. Martin culture and so forth and so on. And again, while I may have agreed or disagreed, is not a factor. I was always just impressed with his ability to explain and to fight for what he believes in, to go to the extreme, right? And clearly articulate his position on what would be considered sensitive issues. My disagreement at the time, I will say, was probably based on what I did not understand, you know. Um, but through it all, I do admire and I appreciate voices such as Mr. Leopold James, because at the end of the day, I respect anyone and everyone who is prepared to stand up and fight for what they believe in, you know, and that's something I've always done my utmost, to take along with me, especially in during my time as General Secretary of the WICSU PSU Union. you know, um, I would have definitely um, integrated those characteristics, you know, in what I saw of course, the activists that of my particular time. So I really want to rise up Mr. Leopold James. I've never met the good gentleman physically, but we've had, some pleasant exchanges on social media as such, and I do want to wish him also a happy International Men's Day. The next person I want to highlight, someone who I also admire a lot is Mr. Theophilus Thompson, labor leader, president of the Windward Islands Federation of Organized Labor, and um, yeah, I've known Mr. Thompson for quite a while, because he's been in the labor movement for quite a while, especially um with my dearly departed aunt, former WICSU president, Miss Patricia Pantoflet, but Mr. Thompson, always humble, always respectful, um, and always willing to share his advice and his experience with younger trade unionists. I remember many a times when I just gotten into the movement officially, I would call upon Mr. Thompson for his advice, and he would always make time. He would always make time to sit down, explain, provide information, and just help me to develop, to be a better trade unionist, to be the type of trade unionist that our people needs, one who the members could rely on, one who could try and provide leadership and direction, So I really, really could not, have Mr. Theophilus Thompson on this list. I think he has done too much. I think he has done a lot. I believe many a times at great personal sacrifice, especially when it comes to protecting the rights of workers on a whole. I think he is making a great impact, you know, and for that reason, I am always grateful. I am always grateful for the time that he has given to me to help me develop further. So Mr. Thompson, Mr. Theophilus Thompson, I want to wish you also a happy International Men's Day, and all the best, of course. Another elder I have to recognize is Mr. Raymond Jesseroon, of the anti-poverty platform. I really admire Mr. Raymond Jesseroon, you know, and I admire him because of his consistency. For quite a long time, he's been hammering on the issue of inequality in the kingdom. He's been hammering on the poverty levels on the island. He's been hammering on the disappointing and unfair treatment meted out against, especially seniors in our community. And in all truth and honesty, it doesn't seem as though Mr. Jesseroon is slowing down. It seems as though the older he gets, you know, and I say this respectfully, of course, it seems as if the older he gets, the more energy he gets. You know, his perspectives, the information that he shares, is always insightful. Even if you hear what he says 100 times, you'll always hear something new, in his presentation. And one can also appreciate the fact that he has literally dedicated his life to be the voice of so many in our community. Again, love him or hate him. At the end of the day, it is hope that you will respect, right? That he is doing his utmost to champion, and advocate on behalf of countless persons in our society. Mr. Jesseroon and I we've had many debates, many long discussions. And again, it is possible that my disagreements is based on my limited information on a particular subject matter. At the same time, we would always, in our effort to be critical thinkers, we just question everything. So when we would have discussions about equality in the kingdom and so forth, and I would be like, how you gonna have equality when we are just literally colonies, you know? When the Hague has more of the say and so forth. Why are we taking that particular trajectory? You understand? But nevertheless, I've always appreciated that he wastes no time to speak truth to power, and it's always amazing that the powers that be would often select when they would say that Mr. Jesseroon is right, and when, according to them, he's just talking for talking's sake. You know, I've seen many instances where he's presented information, um, articles, and so forth to assist in the development of so many policies and so forth, so many ideas that could assist in improving the quality of life of many. And it's so interesting that when aspiring politicians they want to get in, they use his information, and then when they get in, it seems as though they get amnesia. But at the end of the day, the facts still stand. The facts still stand. And again, I really have to praise and show respect for his consistency, right? And to Mr. Raymond Jesseroon, I want to wish you in particular a happy International Men's Day, and continue doing what you're doing. There are many of us that are cheering you on, right? And there are many of us who you probably haven't even met, but you are a source of inspiration for many. All right. So continue doing what you're doing, Captain. Um, I also want to rise up Mr. Elridge Van Putten. I've never met Elridge Van Putten. Hold on there, family. Hold on there. Let me get some light. Okay. Yeah, I've never had the opportunity to meet Mr. Elridge Van Putten, you know, but I remember while sojourning in the Netherlands, I used to wake up very early in the morning. Okay, it had a time difference. I used to wake up very early in the morning to listen to the evening program. I think it was Mr. Elridge Van Putten, Mr. Fernando Clark, and one or two other persons. But I remember those voices for sure. And I would always be impressed with Mr. Van Putten's analysis, you know, whether it was politics, whether it was social issues, whether it was. And the thing is, he spoke with no apology. Always respectful, of course, at least the programs that I heard. But he spoke with no apology. He was resolute, especially when it comes, to the rights of his people, especially when it came to the rights of workers also. He was resolute, and on a few occasions I saw where he was prepared to go, you know, he was prepared to go that extra mile for his people, and that really said a lot to me. You understand? And it's, I in the future, I tried in the past, but I'm hoping to get someone to have a conversation about the life of Mr. Elridge Van Putten, because I truly believe that my generation and those that came up after me who probably did not have the opportunity to even hear his voice, much less know about him, to to understand what he stood for. I think that we ought to do that, and I say this across the board for many other persons that has transitioned. We must continue to find ways to honor them, right, one way or the other, um, and that is what we are going to do here at Unity and Solidarity for sure. For sure. So come next year, we might be having a tribute almost every other month, with all of our local heroes that we need to highlight. who do not get enough recognition. Like, I'll give you an example. Many persons may or may not know that Carlos Cooks, right, one of the um, respected leaders of the Garvey movement and the Black Power movement, went to school on St. Martin, right? Went to school at the Aranya School. Of course, he was born in the Dominican Republic to St. Martin parents, but he went on and joined the Marcus Garvey movement, or the UNIA, the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League, which was basically a vehicle for mobilizing Africans in around the world, of course, to find ways to help themselves, to protect their interests, and basically to empower, Black communities. And imagine that, we have yet to pay um, to pay tribute, you know, to the Honorable Carlos Cooks, and not passingly, not passingly, but I mean pay tribute. So soon enough we'll be doing that here at Unity and Solidarity TV, because we must continue to find ways to honor our ancestors. And bear in mind, the Honorable Carlos Cooks is considered to be the ideological son of the most honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. So that must tell you something, that really, really must tell you something, you know. The next person I want to highlight is just give me 1 minute there, family. Just give me 1 minute. Right? Yeah, I had to answer a question there. The next person I want to highlight, right, is Mr. Clifton Wilson. Yeah, Clifton Wilson. I'm a cousin, Yeah, I'm a cousin. He won't admit it, but I know I'm his favorite. I'm his favorite cousin. You understand? But no, I want to take this time to really wish my cousin Clifton Wilson a happy International Men's Day. I hope he enjoyed it. And I must share with the family, that Mr. Wilson is one of those community-minded persons. He never stops thinking, and I mean that in a good way. Yeah, he's always thinking about solutions, not only to help those around him, but to make life easier for others, especially seniors. And I would always just smile whenever I see Clifton moving and transporting seniors, attending and volunteering at different organizations, and always his willingness to share his information. That is something I always appreciated and admired. I can call him, ask for information, to get his thoughts, and he would always be ready and available. And that's something I always I have to commend him for. You see, I can't say enough about his enthusiasm when it comes to renewable energy as such, and his ideas when it comes to that particular area. But being able to witness what he has done and the benefits he has been enjoying so far is truly, truly inspiring. So, cousin Clifton Wilson, I want to wish you again a happy International Men's Day. And just know that your younger cousin really appreciates you and wish you all the best. Moving on, I want to send a special happy International Men's Day to my uncle Maurice Dixon. you know. So yeah, my uncle Maurice married to my aunt Clemencia Dixon Pantiflet. Quite frankly, I have known uncle all my life. There was never a time that I did not know, Uncle Maurice and thing. And family, what's so amazing? Uncle Maurice was a great football player. Um, to me, a master chef, right? But what always amazes me was his ability to just look at something and know how to fix it. Okay, now one like me now, I have to go on Google, Pinterest, IG, maybe call up a few people to know how to fix something. And my uncle would just look at it, study it for a couple of minutes, maybe sleep on it, and the next day he has a solution. I don't know. I don't. And he doing all this without social media, and that is something that always blew my mind, always. And I used to be like, but how he understand, how he know how to do these things, whether it is cars, fan, fridge, washing machine, it became like a common thing that something happens, something breaks down, you like call Uncle Maurice. You understand what I'm saying? And I mean, I can laugh about it, but that is truly a gift that he has, that ability to just look at something, understand how it works, and then able to remedy it, and something what I always liked would be our conversations, and he would tell me about what it was like you know, growing up on St. Martin and during his days and some of his adventures and how they would have, basic things, day to day living, cooking in a needle pan, hunting for doves and so forth, and, what their favorite pastime always, As a matter of fact, Uncle Maurice would have also able to just look at a plant, a herb, and he said it's for tea, it's for this, it's for that. Amazing. Really and truly, that type of, intelligence, I just always appreciate it, So Uncle Maurice, I really have to wish you a happy International Men's Day. I hope you enjoy your day. I mean, the day almost finished, but that ain't nothing. You have to know that I thought about you, and I just had to show my love and appreciation for you for all that you've done, not only for me, but for the family as a whole. So happy International Men's Day, Uncle. I also want to pay homage, to Mr. Martin Hodge. Or we used to call him Pitt, right? Or Barkley. I think they used to call him Barkley. But Martin was something different back in the day, in terms of basketball. He's a coach. At one point, he was a coach of the Trickers basketball team, the juniors basketball team that I played for, and I always admired, his tenacity, you know. There was like no middle point with Martin. He was always extreme, always intense, and whenever he's playing, he always left everything on the court. I've literally seen the seams of his shoes just like rip away in a game. I've seen him play on like two sprained ankles and a broken finger, I think. I mean, he was that type of player. All right. And the thing with him was like, it was all about leadership and responsibility. That's what he really taught me when he coached, my basketball, the team I was playing for, leadership and responsibility. And that's something, I always take with me on and off the court. So I could not put this list together without mentioning, Mr. Martin Hodge, or again, also known as Pitt or Barkley and thing. To me, one of the best basketball players on St. Martin. All right. Feel free to disagree. But based on what I've seen, Martin was truly a very special and talented basketball player. I think like even when he came back from I think North Carolina, of one of those states, I mean, he was just something different in terms of skill set, speed, effectiveness on the court. I mean, at one point, I literally tried to take over many of those characteristics. Only history will say whether I was able to do so. And here's something also, when coming up, of course you're young and everything, and these guys are, mature, adult, strong and everything, and they would always like push you around, and I remember telling myself that, one of these days when I get older, I made a list. I made a long list of men basketball players on St. Martin who would have beat me when I was younger. So I made a point that, when I reach a certain age, a certain size, a certain skill set, I'm going to go after them one by one. But unfortunately, that ain't happen. That ain't happen. But that was just my way. That was just my way. That was just my competitive spirit, and really showing respect. Really showing respect to those that, you taught me, and here I am, and, we have a score to settle, but all, in the interest of friendly competition. So, Mr. Martin Hodge, Pitt Barkley, one of your students, one of your, yeah, let's call it your younger brother. I really want to wish you all the best. You are not forgotten, highly appreciated, and happy International Men's Day to you. Now, if I say Martin Hodge, I can't leave out, the likes of Siegfried Hodge and Mr. Raleigh. Okay. And I have to put those two together because of the intense training they would have put us through. I remember when we were busy preparing to represent St. Martin in the Dutch Caribbean table tennis tournament. Siegfried Hodge to train us. And when I was preparing to represent St. Martin in a Dutch Caribbean basketball tournament in Borneo, I think it was in 1997, both Siegfried and Mr. Raleigh, Coach Raleigh, would have trained us, and I can tell you the training was intense. You understand what I'm saying? The training was definitely intense. But what I loved about them was that they would push you beyond your perceived limits. Okay. So when you thought you could not go anymore, and when you thought you was reaching your breaking point, because of their coaching, because of their encouragement, you were able to go beyond that, to run that extra mile, to do those extra 10 push-ups, to do the sprints up and down the hill, to swim, various distances and so forth, to hit your quota of 100, 300 jump shots, a day to improve your accuracy. So I really have to, I could not forget, the invaluable contribution of Siegfried Hodge and Coach Raleigh, on my personal development in those particular areas. There was a other gentleman, but his name escapes me. But he used to assist with providing physical training for the table tennis players, right? And believe me when I tell you, at one point we was like literally sprinting around the John Lamini Center, doing walking lunges around John Lamini Center, running up and down the bleachers, but those type of trainings as young men, you need that. You need to be able to find an avenue for all of that surplus energy and put it towards productive use. And it was really good because it strengthened not only our bodies, but it prepared us. It reminded us that as men, you have to keep yourself together to the best of your ability. Today some of us have dad bods, a little belly here and there, but overall it really instilled in us, that if you want to be able to take your game to the next level, you have to train, and you will train hard. I mean, we didn't train to the point where we almost did, to the point of blacking out. But if it wasn't for them, many of us, many athletes of my generation, would probably not have been able to do what they did with such, proficiency, um, to display such athleticism. If it wasn't for Coach Siegfried, Coach Raleigh, and a few others. Don't get me wrong, a few others. So I want to wish them also a happy International Men's Day. Someone who I really can't forget, is Mr. Alan Richardson, right? Mr. Alan Richardson, um, when I was younger, I was part of the Scouts, and at that time he was the, what do we call, the leader, right? The leader, the instructor. And I remember how they would have taken us camping, hiking. We would have learned different life skills, starting fires, how to read the stars, how to tie knots, so many different things, so many different things. And that was always a great experience, especially as a young man, because again, you need that type of structure and discipline. When we went camping, it was a matter of organization. Get up in the morning, make up your tent, keep it tidy and everything. Someone goes for food, someone cleans up, someone, it was always well organized, and sometimes when I would just smile because I was probably between 6 and 10 years old, I think, when I was in the scouts, and we used to meet up, I think, every Saturday by the what do we call it, the BBO school, which was renamed the Alexander School, the William Alexander School, I believe. But right there, we used to meet up and do different drills, marching, and certain what was it? We had to like call. What was it? But there was a number of drills we did, and I really like that. I really like that. As a matter of fact, because of that particular exposure, at one point I also wanted to go in the army. That's a fun fact, So because of that experience, you see, because I had just liked the idea of being able to train, and of course just being able to represent, and to defend your country's interests and so forth, But I really like that, and I really give thanks for persons like Alan. And there's a few of them, but the names just doesn't come to me right now. But I have to give thanks to Mr. Alan Richardson for his time, his patience, his commitment. 'Cause it was a group of young men. It was a group of us that were part of that particular effort. Um, if I say Alan, I have to talk about his brother, um, Mr. Lewis, because at one point he also used to train my basketball team, and his training was different. I think at one point before training started, we literally had to run 20 laps before it started. But he would have really done his utmost to teach us systems. And I will never forget that after we did a couple of training sessions with Mr. Richardson, Lewis Richardson, um, we saw a noticeable difference in our basketball team. I think we were basically better equipped to compete, against more experienced players. You understand? I'm not saying that we have win all, because Lord knows we were handed a number of losses, especially in our first year. But the second year we did better. The second year we did way, way better. And I would always say that those persons definitely played a role. Martin, Mooch Etienne, Lake, Mr. Richardson, as I said, and a few others. Definitely played a role in trying to help us to get ready to compete. So I have to rise them up, for what they did for us as young men. All right. Another person I want to recognize is Mr. Albert Blake of the Unit Trade Union on the northern side of the island. I really love that brother. I love what he do. I love his fearlessness when it comes to um, going all out for his members. You know, speaking truth to power. Not never hesitant, never hesitant. To just remind the powers that be that workers, that labor is not a commodity. That human beings deserve the best. You know, and even if it means that if locals are being abused or exploited because persons from the metropoles want a comfortable and easy life, if it means that they have to leave, to uproot and leave, then that's just what it is. you know One of the most inspiring things that I saw was the manner in which they organized many manifestations, because a local, a young lady with many qualifications was at the time denied employment in the public sector, and instead, the government at the time thought it prudent to give the employment to a non-local, to a metropole, someone from the metropole. And I remember the conversations, the agitation, the manifestations, and that really was, it said a lot to me, that labor is not only concerned with wages and a few benefits, but labor was truly standing up for equality, and that at the end of the day, our people must must at least have the right of first refusal, you know, in our society. And I was very impressed, with his position, as of course with the entire union, because they are very resolute. Okay, they are very clear in their position on many issues. So I had to rise up Mr. Blake for his efforts. I know he's supported by a fearless crew, you know. So, Brother Blake, comrade, I also want to wish you a happy International Men's Day. And let me see. Okay, I getting through. I have to take this time and wish, yeah, another uncle of mine. We adopted him. We adopted him, and I speak of none other than Mr. Earl Wellington Bass. Known Mr. Bass for quite some time, and he's one of those persons that has so many talents, from cooking to masonry to different things. And I've always learned something in his presence. He has returned to his island of birth, and of course we do miss him dearly, but he is definitely not forgotten. You understand? He is also one of those elders that could just look at something and just able to provide a perspective on how it's supposed to be fixed, or what it's good for, whether it's a plant, or even stories about how St. Martin was back in the day. I've always enjoyed those conversations. And of course, I ain't going to mince no words. I think he was one of the best cooks, because every, let's say, Good Friday, we could have looked forward to different meals, whether it was shark and bakes, or fish, and whatever it was. Uncle Earl always made it happen. I mean, our parties could not go ahead if we did not have some of his signature dishes. You understand? But yeah, my Uncle Earl, I know you're with your family on the neighboring island of St. Kitts. And of course, for all of us here, we want to wish you a happy International Men's Day. So family, that's about it. Oh no, I have one more. My former basketball coach in Holland, Mr. Richard Luchten. I played while in the Netherlands. I had the opportunity to play for a basketball team. It was known as RZ, or Rotterdam Zuid, or Rotterdam South. And it was basically a group of youngsters from Suriname, Antilles, Holland, a good mixture, Africa, good mixture. And the coach Richard, um, he really helped me to develop my game, my understanding of the basketball game. He always stressed on fundamentals. He always emphasized accountability and leadership. I mean, those words keep coming up. But because of his trainings, it really helped me to develop a more systematic approach to the game of basketball. Coming from the islands, we always um, we always highlight talent and the ability to score X amount of points, or our finesse and such. But when you play for different clubs abroad, they really emphasize systems and structures. So that's why when I returned to St. Martin playing basketball, my style at one point was often misunderstood, or maybe even critiqued. But it's only because of the training we received. Because I'll tell you this much: because of his training, our team RZ, we won the championship. I can't remember what the year, but it had to have been between 2000 and 2001, right? We won the championship, juniors, and then thereafter we were able to play on a national division. They call it Eredivisie, um, and that was a great experience. That was truly a great experience. But what I'm saying is that it would not have happened without that particular coach. All right. He was very patient, very intelligent, able to explain and have you look at basketball in a totally different light, from studying plays to, it was very organized. You had your preseason workout, you had your workouts for during the season and postseason and such, you know. So I really, really have to commend. I mean, if he ever sees this live, this recording, he has to know that this particular student of his all will always appreciate and show admiration for what he's done in helping me to develop, my skills as a basketball player. All right. And last but certainly not least, I want to rise up um Mr. William Barry. Barry, yeah, man. Barry is a great great person. You know, full of knowledge, always willing to reason, willing to share his information, and as well as to learn. To learn from you. He's not too, he's not one of those person who feel that because you're younger he can't learn from you. And whether in his capacity as as um as a gym teacher, 'cause he was my former gym teacher at the Sundial School, or just simply on the basketball court. Barry is just one of those individuals I've always admired. Never boastful, never hype, and never want to show himself, but just effective. You understand? Never too fancy, at least from what I saw. Never too fun, but always effective. Get the job done and go home. You understand what I'm saying? I've seen Barry do some incredible things, whether it is on the defensive side or on the offensive side. I've seen him doing some incredible things, turning around a game, when his team was probably 10, 20 points down, just through his leadership and insight on the court, he was able to turn it around for the better. And even at times when he would train us in during the school hours, even the way how he gave his lessons, it was always well thought out and in a logical sequence. You understand? Whether it was mobility drills, whether it was sprints, whether it was footwork or whatever, it was always in a logical in a logical manner, you see, and that really helped me, in particular, as well as others, I believe, in becoming better basketball players. So I definitely can't forget Mr. William Barry. So Barry Bill, happy International Men's Day to you. That means I also have to remember Mr. Wendell Moore. Yes, Wendell Moore, the young man who's on PJD2 every afternoon at 12 p.m. Yeah, man, I've known Mr. Moore since my sundial days, and we've always had a very interesting relationship. You understand? Let me put it that way. But as a young man, sometimes we are inclined, to react a certain way when we feel as though we are being disrespected, or whatever have you. But I am glad for teachers like Mr. Wendell Moore, Mr. Matthew, and a few others who really, through their patience and guidance, helped many of us, to have a deeper understanding of the subject matter. You understand? So, Mr. Wendell Moore, I have to give you your props also for being the type of teacher that you were at the time, and for your continuing to inform the public on many different issues. So happy International Men's Day to you. Well, family, we've come to the end, right? We've come to the end of my list, and I say again, I did my utmost to condense it. There are many, many more, but as you can see, it's already an hour and a half. Some of you may have already logged off, you know. But I just wanted to share those reflections with you, and I also wanted to pay homage to the individuals who, again, as I said, played an instrumental role in one way or the other, on my personal development, and I've managed to take um, something, I've managed to take something from each of them, and try to use it to advance in on the journey of life. As I said again, this is my list. Many perhaps will think or feel differently, and that's fine. We all have our unique experiences, and we all know who has played a positive role in our life, you see. And I think we must continue to use every opportunity to give those flowers, while we're still around. Yeah. So I want to say thank you for your time. I really do hope you enjoyed today's episode. I, for one, I enjoyed it. And until the next time, be good. And I will leave you in the prophetic words of the most honorable, right and excellent Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Up, you mighty people, you can accomplish what you will. One God, one aim, one destiny. A luta continua.